The human soldier broke the kill simulator. Galaxy still talks about it. Part 1. Jack Miller sat at the edge of his bunk, polishing his boots. The metal walls of the United Earth Defense Force ship Horizon hummed around him. 20 years in the military had taught him to use quiet moments wisely. A clean boot might not win a war, but it showed attention to detail. In Jack's experience, attention to detail kept you alive. Staff Sergeant Miller? Jack looked up to see Commander Abigail Norton standing in the doorway of his quarters. Her uniform was pressed perfectly, not a wrinkle in sight. Jack stood up, quickly, and saluted. "At ease, Sergeant," Norton said. "We need to talk." Jack put down his boot polish. Something in Norton's voice told him this wasn't a routine visit. "How much do you know about the Galactic Defense Alliance?" Norton asked. "Not much, ma'am. Big group of alien species. They control most of the trade routes in this part of the galaxy. Earth has been trying to join for the past few years." Norton nodded. "That's the basic idea. The GDA has 7 full member species and about 20 associate members. They control the best defense systems in the known galaxy. Our colonies on Proxima Centauri B are sitting ducks without their protection network." Jack sat back down on his bunk. "With respect, Commander, what does this have to do with me? I'm just a grunt." Norton sat down on the chair across from him. "The GDA has a test. Every species that wants to join has to send 1 soldier to take part in their combat trials. They've been watching us, and they picked you." Jack blinked. "Me? Why?" "Your combat record. 3 tours in Afghanistan, the Nigerian crisis, the Luna Rebellion. You've seen more action than most of the officers on this ship." Jack rubbed his stubbled jaw. He needed a shave. "So what is this test exactly?" "They call it a kill simulator. It's some kind of neural interface that creates battle scenarios. Every new species has to send their best fighter to see how many enemies they can take down before they get killed in the simulation." "A video game?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "They want to judge Earth based on how well I play a video game?" Norton shook her head. "It's more than that. The alien representatives say it feels completely real. It tests combat skills, strategy, and mental endurance under fire. No human has ever tried it before." Jack stared at his half-polished boot. "And if I say no?" "Then Earth's application gets put on hold indefinitely. The colonies remain unprotected." Jack thought about his sister Carrie and her family. They had moved to New Hope City on Proxima Centauri B 3 years ago. The colony was thriving, but vulnerable to raiders and worse things that lurked in deep space. "When do they want me to do this?" "We arrive at Deneb 7th in 36 hours. The GDA testing facility orbits the planet. I won't lie to you, Miller. The other species don't think much of humans. We're too new to space travel. Too small. Too soft. This is our chance to show them what we can do." Jack picked up his boot polish again. "I'll need to know everything we have on the other species. Combat styles, physical capabilities, weaknesses." Norton smiled for the first time. "I'll have the files sent to your quarters. Earth is counting on you, Sergeant." After Norton left, Jack finished polishing his boots. His mind went back to his first real combat mission, a village in northern Afghanistan. His squad had been ambushed. 3 men died in the first 10 seconds. Jack survived by doing what humans do best: adapting. 2 days later, the horizon approached, the massive space station orbiting Deneb 7. Through the viewport in the shuttle bay, Jack could see the strange structure. It looked like a giant metal snowflake, with spires and modules extending in all directions. The station rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity in the outer sections. "Impressive, isn't it?" Dr. Samantha Wright joined him at the viewport. The neurologist had been assigned to monitor Jack's vital signs during the simulation. "That station houses representatives from over 30 different species. And none of them think humans belong here," Jack said. "Not yet," Dr. Wright replied. "But they will after you show them what you can do." The shuttle ride to the station was short. Jack sat quietly, mentally reviewing what he had learned about the GDA species. The Draxians had natural armor and incredible strength. The Vereen moved faster than any human could hope to match. The thorax had bodies made of living crystal that could withstand vacuum and extreme temperatures. Each species had evolved on different worlds with different dangers. Each had their own natural advantages. Humans had none of these things. No armor, no super strength, no special powers. What they did have was something Jack had seen on every battlefield he'd ever fought, on stubborn determination and the ability to adapt. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Jack stood up and smoothed down his uniform. "Ready?" Dr. Wright asked. "As I'll ever be." The docking bay was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, others defied description. Jack kept his face neutral as a group of officials approached. The lead alien had blue skin and 4 arms. Each hand had 7 fingers. "Welcome to the GDA testing facility," the alien said through a translator device. "I am Observer Clothar. I will oversee your combat trial." Jack nodded. "Staff Sergeant Jack Miller, United Earth Defense Force. This way, please." They walked through corridors filled with strange sights and smells. Other aliens stopped to stare at Jack. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Jack ignored them. The simulation room was smaller than Jack expected. A single chair sat in the middle, surrounded by medical equipment and monitors. The chair looked like it had been adjusted to fit human proportions. "The neural interface will create a combat environment based on your species' physiology," Clothar explained. "The simulation will continue until you are eliminated." "You mean until I die in the game?" Jack said. "Correct. The system measures combat effectiveness by recording how many enemy combatants you eliminate before your own termination. The average for most species is between 15 and 25. Jack looked at Dr. Wright, who gave him an encouraging nod. "The connection is safe," she said. "We've verified the technology." "Any rules I should know about?" Jack asked as technicians attached sensors to his temples. Clothar seemed confused by the question. "The only objective is survival. You will be provided with simulated weapons appropriate for your species. The rest is up to you." Jack settled into the chair. "Let's get this over with." The last thing he saw before the neural interface activated was Dr. Wright's concerned face. Then reality melted away, replaced by a barren landscape of red rocks and dust. The weight of body armor pressed against his chest. A rifle appeared in his hands, similar to his standard-issue weapon but with subtle alien differences. A voice echoed through his mind. "Combat trial initiative, begin." Jack checked his weapon, found cover behind a large rock, and prepared himself. On the horizon he could see the first wave of enemies approaching. Time to show the galaxy what humans could do. The human soldier broke the kill simulator. Galaxy still talks about it, Part 2. The first enemies appeared over the ridge. They moved with machine-like precision, wearing armor that gleamed under the alien sun. Jack counted 6 of them. Each carried a weapon similar to his own. Jack steadied his breathing. His heart beat faster, but he kept his hands calm. 20 years of combat experience had taught him to control his fear. The simulation felt real. The weight of the weapon, the heat of the sun, even the small rocks digging into his knee as he knelt behind cover. "Just like Nigeria," he whispered to himself, "one shot at a time." The first enemy came into his sights. Jack squeezed the trigger. The weapon kicked against his shoulder. The enemy fell. No blood, Jack noticed. The simulation kept things clean. 2. More enemies appeared to his right. Jack shifted position, fired twice. 2 more down. Outside the simulation, in the control room, Dr. Wright watched Jack's vital signs on the monitor. The blue-skinned alien, Clothar, stood beside her. "His heart rate is elevated but stable," Dr. Wright said. "Breathing normal." Clothar made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. "The human is performing adequately so far. 4 eliminations." A Draxian observer snorted. The massive alien skin looked like gray stone. Early stages. The difficulty increases with each wave. Back in the simulation, Jack finished off the first wave of enemies. The landscape shifted. The red rocks melted away, replaced by a dense jungle. Humid air filled Jack's lungs. He heard movement in the trees. "New terrain, new tactics," Jack muttered. He found a fallen log and used it for cover. The jungle provided better hiding places, but also made it harder to spot enemies. Jack removed his helmet, which was designed for the desert environment. Better to hear approaching enemies than to protect against attacks he wouldn't see coming. 3. Second wave attacked from multiple directions. These enemies moved differently, using the trees for cover. Jack counted 10 of them. He took down 3 before they pinned him down with heavy fire. Jack looked around for options. The rifle had limited ammunition. He needed to make every shot count. He noticed a small stream nearby. The water reflected the sunlight. He grabbed a piece of his armor, a reflective shoulder plate, and angled it to catch the light. The flash blinded 2 enemies long enough for Jack to take them down. He used the confusion to change position. An hour into the simulation, Jack had eliminated 20 enemies. His initial fear faded, replaced by focused concentration. This was just another battlefield. The fact that it wasn't real gave him an advantage. No fear of death, no worry about pain. Just the puzzle of survival. In the control room, the alien, observers grew restless. 26 eliminations, Clothar announced. The human has survived longer than expected. The difficulty seems insufficient, said the Varine observer, an insect-like creature with compound eyes. Increase parameters. Dr. Wright studied the monitors. His stress levels are elevated but not critical. He's adapting to each new scenario. The simulation changed again. The jungle disappeared. Jack found himself in an urban environment. Broken buildings stretched toward a smoke-filled sky. The sound of distant explosions echoed between the ruins. Urban combat, Jack said to himself. My specialty. In Afghanistan and Nigeria, Jack had learned how to fight in cities, stay away from windows, watch the rooftops, use the rubble for cover, never stay in one place too long. The enemies in this scenario wore heavier armor. Their weapons fired energy bolts instead of bullets. Jack had to hit them in specific weak points, joints in the armor, sensor units in the helmets. He moved from building to building, setting traps along the way. When 3 enemies followed him into a narrow alley, he collapsed a damaged wall on top of them. When 2 more tried to flank him through a side street, he used their own tactics against them, leading them into a crossfire. 2 hours in, Jack had eliminated 40 enemies. The simulation changed environments again and again. A frozen tundra, an underground cave system, a space station with artificial gravity that randomly switched directions. Each time, Jack adapted. He learned the patterns of the enemies. He figured out the rules of each environment. Most importantly, he kept his mind focused on the goal: survival. The control room. The aliens watched in disbelief as Jack's kill count continued to climb. 57 eliminations, Clothar announced. This exceeds the previous record for new species trials. Impossible, growled the Draxian observer. The simulation must be malfunctioning. Dr. Wright couldn't hide her smile. Or maybe you underestimated. Humans, the Varine observer chittered nervously. The human's neural patterns are unusual. Most species show extreme stress at this point. Their performance degrades as fear accumulates. Humans process fear differently, Dr. Wright explained. And Miller has extensive combat experience. He's been in worse situations than this. By the 4-hour mark, Jack had eliminated over 80 enemies. The simulation now threw multiple environment changes at him with little warning. Desert to jungle to urban ruins to space station, sometimes within minutes. The enemies became smarter, using more advanced tactics. Jack sat in the corner of a ruined building, catching his breath. His simulated body felt tired, but his real mind remained sharp. He checked his weapons, a rifle with limited ammunition and a sidearm he had taken from a fallen enemy. They're trying to confuse me with the environment changes, he said to himself. Means I'm doing something right. He heard movement outside. A new wave of enemies approached. These moved differently from the others. They coordinated their movements better, communicated with hand signals. Jack recognized Special Forces tactics when he saw them. All right, he whispered. Let's see what you've got. In the control room, alarms began to sound, the monitors showing. The simulation parameters flashed warnings. What's happening? Dr. Wright asked. Clothar's 4 hands moved rapidly over the control panel. The simulation has reached difficulty levels never before utilized. It's creating new combat scenarios based on the human's performance. Is that dangerous? Dr. Wright asked, concerned for Jack's safety. Not physically, Clothar replied, but the neural load is substantial. Most species would experience psychological breakdown at this level. On the main screen, they could see Jack moving through the ruined city, engaged in battle with the new enemies. His movements were precise, economical. No wasted energy, no panic, 89 eliminations, announced Clothar. The previous record was 73, set by a Draxian war master with 30 years of combat experience. The Draxian observer slammed his fist on the console. This is an outrage. The human must be cheating somehow. How exactly would he cheat? Dr. Wright asked calmly. The simulation is controlled by your systems, not ours. Inside the simulation, Jack found a defensible position in the upper floors of a partially collapsed building. He could cover all approaches from this vantage point. When the next wave of enemies arrived, he was ready. Hour 5 of the simulation, Clothar announced. 112 eliminations. The room fell silent. Even the most skeptical alien, observers now watched with undisguised interest. Whatever their feelings about humans, the performance they were witnessing was unprecedented. Jack Miller continued to fight, unaware that he was rewriting the galaxy's understanding of humanity. With every enemy he eliminated, the human soldier broke the kill simulator. Galaxy still talks about it. Part 3 by hour 6 of the simulation, the control room was in chaos. Aliens from all over the station had come to witness what was happening. The room designed for 10 observers now held over 30 beings of different species. 137 eliminations, Clothar announced, his 4 blue hands moving frantically over the control panel. The system is struggling to generate new scenarios. Dr. Wright watched Jack's vital signs carefully. His heart rate remained elevated but stable. His brain activity showed high focus but no signs of breakdown. How is this possible? Asked a Forax observer, its crystalline body glinting under the lights. The difficulty curve should have terminated him by now. You're thinking like a Forax, Dr. Wright replied. Jack is thinking like a human. We evolved on a planet where we were rarely the strongest or fastest. We survived by outsmarting stronger predators. Inside the simulation, Jack faced a new challenge. The environment had changed to what looked like an alien factory. Massive machines pumped and hissed around him. Catwalks stretched above pools of bubbling liquid metal. The air was thick with steam and smoke. Jack had collected an arsenal from fallen enemies. 2 rifles, 3 sidearms, and several devices he had figured out how to use. One created a temporary energy shield. Another fired a grappling hook that let him reach high places quickly. A new wave of enemies entered the factory floor below him. Jack counted 15 of them. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single mind. Their armor was heavier than any he had seen before. Can't take them head on, Jack muttered to himself. Need to change the rules. He looked at the machinery around him. In real combat, changing the environment was often more effective than direct attacks. Jack aimed his rifle at a pressure valve on one of the large tanks. One shot, and steam exploded outward, filling the factory floor with blinding white clouds. The enemy's sensors couldn't see through the steam. But they could still hear. Jack threw a piece of metal far to his left. The sound drew half the enemies away. Then he dropped down behind the others, taking them out one by one. In the control room, the observers watched in amazement. He's not just fighting the enemies, said the Vereen observer. He's changing the simulation parameters by interacting with the environment in ways we didn't anticipate. This isn't in the standard combat protocols, agreed Clothar. Most species focus only on the enemies, not the surroundings. Dr. Wright nodded. Humans have fought humans for thousands of years. We've learned that the environment can be a weapon, just like a gun or a knife. By hour 7, Jack had eliminated 153 enemies. The simulation changed again, this time to a desert with strange rock formations. 3 moons hung in the purple sky. The enemies now rode on 6-legged beasts that moved. With frightening speed, Jack found shelter in a narrow canyon where the beast couldn't follow. He set traps at the entrance using equipment he had collected. When the mounted enemies approached, the traps disabled the beasts, forcing the riders to continue on foot. In the narrow canyon, their numbers meant nothing. 168 eliminations, Clothar announced. And he's doing something new now. On the screen, they could see Jack taking apart one of the enemy weapons. His hands moved with practiced skill, removing components and reassembling them in a different configuration. "What is he doing?" asked the Draxian observer. "Weapon modification," explained Dr. Wright. "It's a standard skill for Earth Special Forces." The simulation had never encountered this behavior before. It struggled to categorize and respond to Jack's improvisation. As he continued to adapt and overcome each new challenge, the system's predictive algorithms began to fail. Error messages flashed across the technician's monitors. "The simulation is approaching critical capacity," warned a technician. "It can't generate scenarios fast enough to match his adaptation rate." In the virtual world, Jack had modified the weapon to fire superheated plasma instead of standard energy bolts. The new weapon melted through enemy armor with ease. When the next wave attacked, he eliminated them more efficiently than ever. Hour 8 brought a new challenge. The desert faded away, replaced by a dark forest. The trees towered hundreds of feet above, blocking most of the light. Strange sounds echoed from the darkness. The enemies here were different. They blended into the shadows, attacking and retreating without warning. Jack climbed one of the massive trees, finding a perch high above the forest floor. From there, he could spot movement below, while remaining hidden himself. When enemies approached, he picked them off one by one. 191, counted Clothar. The system resources are at 97% capacity. Dr. Wright checked Jack's vitals again. He's been going for 8 hours straight. Any other species would be showing mental fatigue by now. "Humans have one advantage you haven't considered," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Frank Dawson, Earth's ambassador to the GDA, standing in the doorway. "We're stubborn, especially when someone tells us we can't do something." On the main screen, Jack had built a series of platforms in the trees, creating a network that allowed him to move above the forest floor without being detected. The enemies below searched frantically, unable to locate their target until it was too late. By hour 9, warning lights flashed throughout the control room. The simulation system struggled to keep up with Jack's unconventional tactics. The difficulty level had reached parameters never before tested. 209 eliminations, announced Clothar, his voice filled with disbelief. The Draxian observer pounded his massive fist on the console. "End the simulation. The human is breaking the system." "The protocol is clear," Clothar replied. "The simulation continues until the participant is eliminated." "But what if the participant can't be eliminated?" asked Dr. Wright. "What if the system can't create a scenario difficult enough?" The question hung in the air. No one had considered this possibility before. Inside the simulation, Jack faced his greatest challenge yet. The forest had disappeared, replaced by an alien city under siege. The sky burned red above damaged buildings. In the distance, massive war machines moved slowly toward his position. "Final defense protocol initiated," announced a voice in the simulation. "Termination imminent." Jack took cover in a half-destroyed building. He had collected an impressive arsenal over the past 9 hours. Weapons, shields, communication devices taken from fallen enemies. He had learned how each worked, how to modify them, how to use them in ways their designers never intended. "Let's finish this," he said to himself. The first of the war machines reached his position. It stood 5 times taller than a man, walking on 4 heavily armored legs. Energy weapons protruded from its armored shell. Jack waited until it passed his building, then used his grappling device to attach himself to its underside. The machine's armor was thickest on top and sides, but thinner underneath. Jack placed modified explosive charges on the vulnerable points, then dropped back to the ground and took cover. When the charges detonated, the massive war machine collapsed. 210, counted Clothar. Jack moved through the ruined city using the fallen war machine as cover from the others. He redirected one of its damaged weapons, using it to fire upon the approaching enemies. 2 more war machines fell under the unexpected friendly fire. 212, said Kilthar. 213. Suddenly, all the monitors flickered. The simulation display became distorted. Error messages filled every screen. "What's happening?" demanded the Draxian observer. "System overload," replied one of the technicians. "The predictive algorithms have reached computational limits. The simulation can't generate a scenario capable of defeating the human." Dr. Wright couldn't hide her smile. "In other words, he broke your kill simulator." The main display went black, then returned to the startup screen. In the simulation chair, Jack Miller opened his eyes, looking confused. "Did something go wrong?" he asked. "I was just getting started." Clothar stared at the human in silence for a long moment. Then he made a sound that his translator rendered as laughter. "No, human. You completed the trial. 217. Eliminations before system failure. The previous record was 73. Jack shrugged as the technicians removed the neural sensors from his temples. I could have kept going. In that moment, the galaxy's understanding of humanity changed. Forever. The human soldier broke the kill simulator. Galaxy still talks about it. Part 4 news traveled fast on the GDA station. By the time Jack returned to the Earth delegation's quarters, everyone knew what had happened. Earth's ambassador, Frank Dawson, waited for him in the main conference room along with Dr. Wright and Commander Norton. 217, Dawson said, shaking Jack's hand firmly. "You just rewrote the record book, Sergeant." Jack shrugged. "Just did my job, sir." "Your job was to survive the simulation," Commander Norton said. "Not break it completely." Dr. Wright handed Jack a cup of water. "How do you feel?" "Tired," Jack admitted. "But fine otherwise. It felt real in there, but I always knew it wasn't." Made it easier to keep going. Ambassador Dawson's communication device beeped. He checked the message and smiled. "The GDA Council wants to meet with us tomorrow morning." "Is that good or bad?" Jack asked. "Good question," Dawson replied. "They didn't expect a human to perform this well. It's disrupted their neat categories for ranking species." The next morning, Jack put on his dress uniform. The formal blue jacket and pants felt stiff after years of combat fatigues, but regulations were regulations. Commander Norton walked with him to the council chamber. "Remember," she said quietly, "you're not just a soldier today. You're representing all of humanity." The GDA council chamber was massive. Curved rows of seating surrounded a central platform. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, their varied bodies and colors creating a living rainbow. Jack stood with the Earth delegation on the central platform, trying not to stare at the alien faces. High Counselor Vexra, a tall being with translucent skin that pulsed with changing colors, called the meeting to order. Her translator converted her musical language to English. "We are here to discuss the combat trial results of Earth's representative, Staff Sergeant Jack Miller of the United Earth Defense Force." The chamber's main screen displayed Jack's performance statistics. The number 217 stood out in large digits. The previous record for a new species trial was 73 eliminations, set by War Master Krog of the Draxian Empire. Vexra continued. Staff Sergeant Miller's performance exceeded this by 144 eliminations. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jack stood at attention, eyes forward. More significantly, Vexra added, the simulation did not terminate Staff Sergeant Miller. Rather, the simulation itself failed. This is unprecedented. A large Draxian representative stood up. His gray stone-like skin and massive frame made him an imposing figure. "The human cheated," he growled. "Their neural patterns indicate they never fully accepted the simulation as reality." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "With respect, that's precisely the point. Humans have a unique ability to maintain cognitive distance even in immersive environments. Staff Sergeant Miller recognized the parameters of your test and optimized his approach accordingly." Ambassador Dawson nodded. Is that not the definition of superior combat strategy? Identifying the rules of engagement and exploiting them to maximum advantage? The Vereen representative, an insect-like being with compound eyes, chittered softly. The human's performance suggests a concerning level of adaptation to violence. Even our warrior castes show signs of neural fatigue after 50 simulated kills. Jack cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him. Ambassador Dawson looked nervous. "Permission to speak, sir?" Jack asked. Dawson nodded cautiously. "Go ahead, Sergeant." Jack addressed the council directly. "It's not about violence. It's about survival. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've had time to get good at it." The chamber fell silent. Jack continued. "On Earth, we weren't the strongest or fastest animals. We didn't have claws or armor. We survived by adapting, by using our minds to overcome stronger enemies." High Counselor Vexra's skin pulsed with blues and greens. An interesting perspective, yet the simulation was designed to test combat capability, not creativity. "With respect," Jack replied, "real combat requires both. The enemy doesn't. Fight according to your rules. The environment isn't what you expect. Plans fail. Weapons malfunction. The winner isn't the strongest or fastest, but the one who adapts best." The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices as the representatives debated among themselves. Different translation devices created a cacophony of languages. Finally, High Counselor Vexra raised her hand for silence. "The humanity question requires further study," she announced. "However, the combat trial results cannot be disputed. Earth will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance, with full integration of defense systems to begin immediately." Ambassador Dawson bowed slightly. "The people of Earth thank you, High Counselor." After the formal session ended, many of the alien representatives approached Jack. Some seemed curious, others wary. A young Forax, its crystalline body gleaming, under the lights asked for a demonstration of human combat techniques. A group of Vereen engineers wanted to know how Jack had modified the weapons in the simulation. As they left the council chamber, Jack overheard two alien technicians speaking, in what they thought was a private channel. His neural link from the simulation was still active, allowing him to understand their language. "The simulation didn't fail because it couldn't kill the human," one said. "It failed because the human's combat approach introduced a logical paradox." "Explain," demanded the other. "The simulation is programmed to create scenarios of increasing difficulty until the participant is eliminated. But the human kept improving faster than the simulation could escalate. The system crashed trying to generate an impossible scenario." Jack smiled to himself. Human adaptability. 1. Alien technology. 0. Back in the Earth delegation's quarters, a celebration was underway. Jack found himself the center of attention, though it made him uncomfortable. He preferred the anonymity of a regular soldier. "What does provisional membership mean exactly?" he asked Ambassador Dawson quietly. "It means we get access to the GDA defense network immediately," Dawson explained. "The colonies will be protected, but we're on probation. They'll be watching us closely." Commander Norton joined them, holding a cup of Earth whiskey she had brought for the occasion. "They're afraid of us now. One human soldier broke their precious simulator. Imagine what they think an army of humans could do." "They don't understand us yet," Jack said. "We're not just fighters. We build things, we create art, we explore. Fighting is just something we had to learn along the way." Dr. Wright raised her glass. "To humanity's newest ambassador, Staff Sergeant Jack Miller." Jack shook his head. "I'm no ambassador. I'm just a soldier who did his job." "That's where you're wrong," Dawson said. "The GDA Council has requested that you remain here as part of Earth's permanent delegation. They want you to help design new training protocols based on human tactical thinking." Jack stared at the ambassador in shock. "Me? I'm not qualified. For that, I just shoot things." "You broke their unbreakable system," Norton said. "You showed them something they've never seen before. That makes you exactly the right person for the job." As the celebration continued around him, Jack looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, his sister and her family lived on a colony that would now be protected by the most advanced defense system in the galaxy. All because he had done what humans always did when faced with impossible odds. He had adapted. He had survived. He had changed the rules, and the galaxy would never be the same. The human soldier broke the kill simulator. Galaxy still talks about it. Part 5 years passed quickly. Jack Miller stood in the observation lounge of the GDA training facility, watching the newest class of cadets prepare for basic combat training. The training floor below was filled with beings from a dozen different species, including 6 humans from Earth colonies. "Is it true?" asked a young Forax officer standing next to Jack. The crystalline being's body caught the light as it turned toward him. "About the human who broke the kill simulator?" Jack smiled slightly. "Which version of the story did you hear?" "That a human soldier faced the combat trial and killed 1,000 enemies before the system crashed," the Forax said with awe in its translated voice. 217, Jack corrected. "The number grows every time the story gets told." "It grows?" Forax's crystalline form shimmered with surprise. "You're him? You're the human who broke the simulator?" "Staff Sergeant Jack Miller," he confirmed, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. To his credit, the Forax had learned the custom and carefully took Jack's hand in its own crystalline appendage. "Senior Cadet Zin," the Forax introduced itself. "I studied your tactics in our advanced combat theory class. They made us watch recordings of your performance." Jack laughed. "Hope it didn't put you to sleep." "On the contrary," Zin said. "It completely changed how the GDA approaches combat training. Before humans joined, we fought the way we trained. Predictable patterns. Standard responses." Jack nodded. 5 years had taught him a lot about how other species approached warfare. They were often stronger, faster, or better armored than humans, but they lacked the human talent for improvisation. "And now?" Jack asked, curious about the young cadet's perspective. "Now we learn to think beyond the parameters," Zin replied, "to question standard tactics, to adapt to unexpected situations." Below them on the training floor, Jack watched as a human instructor demonstrated improvised weapon techniques to a mixed group of aliens. The GDA had discovered that while humans might not be the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, they possessed something just as valuable: creativity under pressure. Commander Linda Peterson, Earth's liaison to the GDA Training Command, joined Jack at the viewport. Her uniform bore the insignia of Earth's new joint military program with the Alliance. "Admiring your handiwork, Miller?" she asked with a smile. "Just observing," Jack replied. "The new training program seemed to be working well." Peterson nodded. 5 integrated classes graduated so far. Each one performs better than the last in combat simulations. "Speaking of which," Jack said, "how's the new simulator coming along?" "Version 3 is almost ready," Peterson said. "The engineers say they've finally fixed the adaptability problems. It can now generate scenarios faster than even you can respond to them." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Want to bet on that?" Peterson laughed. "Maybe next time. Today I need you in the briefing room. The reports from the border patrols just came in." Jack's expression grew serious. In the far reaches of the Orion Arm, the Void Collective continued its slow advance toward Alliance space. The mysterious enemy had destroyed 3 civilizations before the GDA formed to stop them. "Anything new?" he asked. "They've changed their attack patterns," Peterson said. "Intelligence suggests they've somehow learned about our new combat doctrines." "Adaptation works both ways," Jack commented. "We get better, they get better. That's how it's always been." In the briefing room, representatives from 8 species gathered around a holographic display showing the movement of Void Collective forces along the borders of Alliance space. Jack took his place among them, no longer just a soldier, but an advisor whose opinion carried weight. The Draxian General Krog acknowledged Jack with a respectful nod. Their initial rivalry had slowly transformed into a wary professional respect over the years. "The collective has modified their approach," Krog rumbled. They now use unpredictable attack vectors instead of standard formations. Almost like they've been studying humans, commented a Vereen strategist. Jack studied the holographic display. They're learning. That makes them more dangerous. High Commander Vexra, once a counselor and now the Alliance's military leader, turned her translucent form toward Jack. Your assessment, Advisor Miller? 5 years ago, Jack would have been surprised to be asked his opinion in a room full of alien military leaders. Now it felt normal. They're trying to copy our adaptability, he said, but they're missing something important. Which is? Asked Krog. Humans don't just adapt randomly, Jack explained. We learn from history, from mistakes, from each other. True adaptation isn't just changing tactics, it's understanding why the change works. He stepped forward and manipulated the holographic display, highlighting patterns in the collective's movements. See here and here? They're using human-style tactics, but applying them mechanically. There's no real understanding behind them. The room was silent as the Alliance leaders considered his words. So how do we respond? Asked Vexra finally. We teach the joint forces to recognize these patterns, Jack said. Then we teach them how to counter them. Most importantly, we teach them why the counters work. The meeting continued for hours as they developed a new training protocol for the border forces. Jack's role had changed dramatically from the day he first arrived at the GDA station. No longer a simple soldier, he had become a bridge between human and alien ways of thinking about combat. After the meeting, Jack returned to his quarters. Pictures of his family decorated the walls, his sister Carrie and her family on Proxima Centauri b, his parents back on Earth. 5 years ago, he had only meant to stay with the GDA for a few months. Somehow months had turned into years. His communication panel blinked with an incoming call from Earth. Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force appeared on the screen. Miller, she greeted him. How's life among the stars? Busy, Jack replied. The Void Collective is changing tactics again. Chen nodded. That's actually why I'm calling. We're forming a new joint task force, special operations, humans and allies working together to counter the Collective's advance. Sounds important, Jack said. It is, Chen confirmed. And we want you to command it. Jack blinked in surprise. Me? I'm not senior enough for that kind of position. Chen smiled. You're the most qualified person we have, Miller. No one else understands both human and alien combat approaches as well as you do. I'll need to think about it, Jack said. Take your time, Chen replied, but not too much. The galaxy isn't getting any safer. After the call ended, Jack walked to the viewport in his quarters. Stars stretched out before him, countless worlds where different species lived and evolved. Somewhere out there, the Void Collective waited, adapting and changing just as humans always had. 5 years ago, he had broken a combat simulator by doing what came naturally to him, adapting, improvising, refusing to accept defeat. That single act had changed how the galaxy saw humans, not as weak newcomers but as valuable allies with unique skills. Jack thought about the young cadets he had watched training earlier, humans and aliens learning from each other, becoming stronger together than they ever could separately. If he took this new command, he would be responsible for soldiers from a dozen different worlds. His decision was already made. Jack Miller had never walked away from a duty or a challenge. He wouldn't start now. Across the galaxy, in briefing rooms and training facilities and diplomatic meetings and strategy sessions, the story was still told. The human who broke the kill simulator, the soldier who couldn't be defeated, the man who taught the galaxy a new way to fight, and somewhere on a distant planet, a Void Collective strategic unit analyzed battle reports and tactical data, trying to understand the unpredictable creativity of their newest enemy, humans. They would learn, as the GDA had, that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't strength or speed or technology. It was adaptability.